there shouldn't be any role of the federal government in education. It should be handled on a state, local, and people level. I've seen some very, very bad things coming from the federal government in the form of education, and I think we really need to take that from them and deliver it to the people where it belongs. People would be free to manage their children's education, and if they wanted their states to set up public schools and that sort of thing, that's fine with me, but the federal government would be out of it, and that would be very empowering to people and to their local governments and their state governments. There wouldn't be any of the atrocities that we see now coming from the federal government, encouraging same-sex bathrooms, and I've seen some horrifying videos of what federal education is doing with young children and so forth, and I would like to see that stopped at the federal level. And you know, if people in California wanted to teach their sixth graders to use dildos and things like that, as I've seen recently, believe it or not, and people in Mississippi didn't, that would be their prerogative, I suppose. So, third question. The third question concerns the environment. And I'm all in favor of the environment, but I believe that the people of Tennessee, the people of Wyoming, the people of Nevada, the people of Utah, the people of Alabama, any other state is perfectly capable of managing and developing their own environment and protecting their own environment. So I don't think they need the federal bureaucracy to do that for them, to tell them what they should do with their land and that sort of thing. Tied in with that is, of course, the problem of energy. Now, I'm all in favor of this country developing the energy sources that it has. I am very much in favor of the United States trying to achieve energy independence, and to do that we need to exploit the energy that we have, and we need to trade with friendly countries like Canada, for example. We need to develop our pipelines to move that energy to market and that sort of thing. So that is basics on the environment and on energy development as I see it. There have been some questions concerning the North Dakota pipeline, you know, and I'm sure I'm not totally apprised of all the issues surrounding that and the problems that have happened there. But as I said, I'm in favor of energy independence, and I'm in favor of building the pipelines in as environmentally conscious way as possible. Let's see, what else? Mandatory vaccines, that's another question that comes up all the time, constantly, and as I've said many times, I'm opposed to mandatory vaccines. I'm very liberty conscious, and I don't think we should force our children to do it. I wouldn't force my child. I wouldn't want anybody to force my child to be vaccinated. I did have some experience with that when my daughter was young, and I didn't allow it then. I wouldn't allow it now, so hopefully that will answer that. Let's see, what else? Immigration. Obviously, we get continual questions about immigration, and my immigration policy is that immigration should be stopped in all its forms until we have secure borders. We would secure our borders by whatever means proved necessary. Is it necessary to build a wall? I don't think it is, but I would secure our borders by whatever means I had to use in order to do that. Once we have control of our borders and we know who's crossing the border, we know that people crossing the border are not terrorists, for example, and that they don't have some disease that the American people have not been exposed to and that might be dangerous for them, we can admit as many immigrants as we want then. That's the basics of my policy. Okay, concealed carry, that's another question I get quite often. Concealed carry, especially right now in the news on college campuses. I'm in favor of concealed carry. Myself, personally, I am. And I think that's a state and local issue as well. I think it should be up to those people to do what they want with it, and that way, if one state said no concealed carry in our state, it's up to them to change the policy of their state or local government or whoever makes that. But from a federal standpoint, I wouldn't see any federal mandate saying that it's illegal. Gun control, certainly I'm not in favor of it, and so I believe very strongly in the Second Amendment, and I don't believe the federal government should be telling people that they don't have the right to defend themselves and that sort of thing. taxes. All right, that's another question that we get quite often. Tax policy. My tax policy is what I refer to as a constitutional tax. And the original intent of the Constitution originally said that there should be no direct tax imposed by the federal government on the American people. Now, we amended that with the 16th Amendment to allow the federal government to tax our income. So what I would like to see is a tax that's apportioned to the states. In other words, if my state of Tennessee, for example, had 1% of the national population, then it would be responsible for 1% of the budget, and it could collect that tax any way it chose. For example, it could tax the country music industry, which is a big business here in Tennessee, and any other method that it chose to do that. In Hawaii, they might tax tourism. In Alaska, they might tax their natural resources, their petroleum industry, and so forth on down the line. In Nevada, obviously, it would be gambling that they tax. So that would free the states to be sovereign once again. The states would no longer be going to the federal government on their knees saying, please give us money to fund all these mandates that you've placed on us. It would empower the states, and it would disempower Washington, which is the way the founders intended it to be. Now, I got a question the other day about the death penalty, and this dear lady said that Jesus told us that we shouldn't kill, and she wondered how I support the death penalty given that. And I think if you actually look at the real interpretation of that statement in Scripture, it actually says, thou shalt not murder. The ruler bears not the sword in vain. It's incumbent upon the government that we elect, that we choose, to defend the innocent. And that is what the death penalty does, in my opinion. It defends the innocent. So, that's my policy. Once again, it's a state matter. I mean, most of these issues come up on the state level. And I would be in favor of the states imposing that penalty, but that would be up to them. I get a lot of questions about why I'm not in the debates. Well, the Democrats and Republicans control the debate process. It shouldn't be that way because it gives them total control over who the American people have access to, but that's the way it is. And in order to get in their debates, you have to reach a certain level in the polls, 15%, although I understand now that they might allow Mr. Johnson in with less than 15%. Once again, they use their prerogative to do that. But if they don't allow you in the polls, which they have not done for me, they won't allow me in the polls. So if you are not in the polls, you can't achieve 15%. So that's the way it is with the debates right now. I sit here waiting. If they want to allow me in, I'm more than happy to be in, I can assure you, but it's out of our hands. Now, another question that comes up quite often, and one of my dear friends posed this question just recently, and that is why we don't spend our time, our resources on local elections rather than on the presidential race. Well, we need to do both. We have a very fine candidate here in Tennessee named Mike Warner, who's running for the state legislature, and I think Mike has a fairly good chance to actually win the election. So we concentrate on all of them. I would hate to see us sit here trying to build at the local grassroots level when we're losing our country at the same time. So we need to do all these things. And one thing I've learned in this race is that it's not impossible. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. We can do it if we have enough support, if we have enough money, if the people out there who support us would be generous from the get-go all the way through. It could be done. This was a grand opportunity, and it's still going on. We're now, I think, if my calculation is correct, including today and including the day of the election, 58 more days to go. So it's not too late. People in 48 states can vote for me. I think right now I'm on the ballot as a party in 25 states, and there are 23 other states that people can vote for me by writing in my name. So it is possible that there could be a quiet, bloodless revolution in this country, and we could wake up November 9th and I would be president. All those things are possible. I watched the the speech that Mr. Trump gave the other day on national defense, and I thought he did pretty good. His new handlers have schooled him pretty well, and he is appealing to those people who want a strong defense, and I'm one of those. I certainly want a strong defense. I would like for us to have a defense second to none. There are a lot of threats out there, and I don't pretend to know what they all are. And no one could really know that unless he had access to the military leadership of the country and to the leaders of the 16 defense or intelligence agencies that we have right now and so forth. So in conjunction with what those people told me to see where the threats are and that type of thing, we need a strong defense. We make a lot of mistakes in preparing a strong defense. In other words, we spend hundreds of billions of dollars developing something like the F-35 fighter, which defense people tell me now is outperformed by the old F-15 Strike Eagle. So we need to be careful about what we do and careful about how we use our money and watch every dollar. But in line with that, I certainly am in favor of a strong defense. Now, one last thing, and that will be...
What's different in you and Gary Johnson?
Oh, I get the question many times about how am I different from Gary Johnson? Well, the answers are pretty obvious, really. I'm a strongly pro-life candidate. I believe it's a big mistake to empower government to tell us who is and who is not a person. So I support the pro-life position without exception, and Mr. Johnson doesn't do that. I support secure borders. I believe as a nation we have a right to know who's coming across our border, and apparently Mr. Johnson doesn't support that. I also understand what religious freedom is. I know what the First Amendment tells us, and Mr. Johnson apparently does not. And you can document that by several of his statements about religious freedom, about people who have religious reasons why they don't want to bake birthday cakes for certain people and that sort of thing. Those types of issues are religious freedom issues. So I hope you've enjoyed this time with me, folks. Now, this coming Saturday, we're going to have an event in Branson, Missouri. I'm going to give a speech to the Constitution Party of Missouri at a national meeting there, and then after the speech, we're going to have a special session that we're calling a town hall meeting with a fine moderator, and we're trying to get C-SPAN coverage, and we hope to live stream that event. So I hope you'll tune in for that, folks. You can check Facebook and the website and that sort of thing to find the times for all those things. So I hope to see you then, folks. Thank you for listening.